The Forbidden History. The Varkish Dominion was known across the galaxy for its strength and fearsome military, commanding vast fleets of ships and holding control over countless systems. The Dominion's empire was unmatched. Yet there was one species they feared above all others, a species they never dared to touch: humans. On the surface, humans seemed weak compared to the dominant species of the galaxy. Their technology was primitive, their armies small, and their home planet, Earth, appeared to be just another unimportant world in the farthest reaches of space. But there was something far more dangerous hidden beneath the surface of this small, seemingly insignificant species. Zaltor, a young and ambitious commander of the Varkish Dominion, had always heard whispers of this mysterious species called humans. However, the older commanders spoke of them with caution, referring to them as the Deathworlders, a name given to them for their ability to survive in the harshest environments the galaxy could offer. Still, Zaltor could not understand the fear surrounding them. He had heard that their home world, Earth, was not even a military threat, and its technology was nowhere near the level of the advanced species in the galaxy. So, what was the truth? Why did the Varkish Dominion have a no-war policy when it came to humanity? Zaltor was not the kind of commander to settle for half answers. He was determined to uncover the truth about these Deathworlders, even if it meant going against the orders of his superiors. He had heard the stories, heard about the ancient war that had occurred long ago, but those records were sealed. The Council of the Dominion had made it clear that no one was allowed to speak of Earth or the humans beyond the Forbidden History. The decision to avoid war with humanity was a rule, and rules were never to be questioned. But Zaltor could not shake his curiosity. Why would a galaxy so advanced, so full of power and destruction, be afraid of one small, seemingly defenseless planet? There had to be more to the story. One night, Zaltor quietly entered the Dominion's central archives. The guards were not as vigilant as they usually were, and the information he sought was buried deep within the classified files. For hours, he searched through layers of encrypted records, his mind racing. His patience was tested, but eventually, he stumbled upon something that immediately caught his eye. A file marked with a warning: "Do not open. Galactic History. The Human War." His heart raced. This was it. This was the forbidden knowledge he had been seeking. He hesitated for a moment, his finger hovering over the access panel. The warning flashed brightly on the screen, reminding him of the consequences of breaking the law. But his curiosity won over. He pressed the button, and the file opened. The first image that appeared was a map of Earth from centuries ago, showing what looked like a war zone. Zaltor's eyes narrowed as he saw the next line of text: "The Zenari invasion, the greatest mistake of the galaxy." His breath caught in his throat. The Zenari were a mighty empire, their fleets capable of wiping out entire planets in an instant. For them to have made a mistake with humans, it didn't make sense. How could such an advanced civilization be defeated by a species with so little in terms of technology? Zaltor read further, the words on the screen beginning to reveal the shocking truth. The Zenari had indeed invaded Earth centuries ago, convinced that humans were an easy target. Earth had no great armies, no powerful weapons to defend itself, and its technology was laughable compared to the galactic powers. But the Zenari learned the hard way that humans were not as easy to conquer as they had assumed. The invasion had been swift, brutal, and one-sided at first. The Zenari destroyed cities, killed millions, and reduced the planet to chaos. But then, something unexpected happened. Humans fought back. They fought in ways the Zenari couldn't understand. They didn't have the advanced weapons or technology, but they had something more: a resilience and creativity that the Zenari had never encountered before. The Zenari fleet had been unable to adapt quickly enough to the humans' unconventional tactics. The humans fought with their minds, using their environment, improvising, and learning from their losses. They didn't give up. They didn't break. Zaltor read how the Zenari forces began to dwindle. The once invincible fleet was now in retreat. The humans had learned the art of guerrilla warfare, of using every resource at their disposal to fight back. As time passed, the Zanari fleet became less and less coordinated. And then, in a final act of desperation, the Zanari commanders attempted to destroy the Earth, using a weapon that could erase the planet from existence. But the humans were prepared. They sacrificed everything to stop the Zanari weapon, launching a counterattack that took down the Zanari's greatest weapon before it could finish its mission. In the end, the Zanari were forced to leave Earth in shame, their fleet utterly defeated. Zaltor sat in stunned silence as he processed what he had just read. The humans had won not through superior technology, but through determination, cunning, and sheer willpower. They had taken on a galactic empire and emerged victorious. The last line in the document was a chilling warning. Do not engage the humans. They are the galaxy's greatest threat, not because of their weapons, but because of their ability to never give up. They will never break, no matter the cost. Zaltor's mind raced. The story he had uncovered was unlike anything he had ever imagined. The Varkish Dominion had avoided war with humanity not because of their technology or power, but because of the incredible will of the humans. They had defeated a superior force, and they were capable of doing it again. As Zaltor shut down the terminal and left the archives, the weight of the truth settled on him. He knew the galaxy was wrong to underestimate Earth, to underestimate humans. The Deathworlders were not to be taken lightly. And now he understood why. The secret behind the no-war rule was not just about avoiding conflict. It was about avoiding a fight they could never win. Zaltor's mind buzzed with the gravity of the discovery. The galaxy had always known Earth as a weak, unimportant world, easy to dismiss, easy to forget. The humans, as the Varkish Dominion and countless others had believed, were nothing more than a primitive species lost in the dark corner of the galaxy. But the forbidden history he had uncovered painted a different picture entirely. The truth was far more terrifying. As Zaltor walked through the quiet corridors of the Dominion's capital ship, his thoughts raced. The Zanari, a proud and powerful empire, had been humbled by humans. The humans had not only survived, but they had outsmarted, outlasted, and ultimately defeated their invaders. And the Zanari were just one example. What if there were more stories, more races that had tried to dominate Earth, only to face the same fate? He didn't know what to do with this knowledge. It was too dangerous, too powerful to ignore. The entire galaxy had believed for centuries that humanity was weak. But now, Zaltor knew better. Humans were dangerous not because of their weaponry or their armies, but because they never backed down. They fought not only for survival, but for something much greater, a will to never lose, and in the galaxy that made them the most dangerous species to ever exist. But what did this mean for the future? The Varkish Dominion had been peaceful with Earth, respecting the unspoken rule, do not engage the humans. But if Zaltor was right, what would happen if that rule was broken? What if other species, less cautious, less respectful of the warning, decided to test the humans again? Would they too fall like the Zanari? Zaltor had to know more. The answers he had found in the archives were only a small part of a much larger mystery. There had to be more hidden away. Other incidents, other species who had learned the hard way not to challenge Earth. And he needed to find them, to understand the full extent of what humanity could do. His first step was to meet with his superior, General Zaro, an older and much more experienced commander. Zaro was known for his strategic mind and his ability to read the movements of other races with frightening accuracy. If anyone knew more about humanity, it would be him. The meeting was set for later that evening, and Zaltor's anticipation grew as he made his way to Zaro's private quarters. The general's room was vast, filled with holographic star maps and data terminals. The air was thick with the scent of burned oil and warships, an environment that was both impressive and intimidating. Commander Zaltor, General Zaro greeted him as he entered. The general's deep voice reverberated in the large room. "I trust you've been busy." Zaltor nodded. "I found something. Something we need to discuss. Zero raised an eyebrow, intrigued. What is it? Zoltor took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. It's about Earth. The humans. Zero's expression hardened. The humans. What about them? Their history isn't what we thought, Zoltor said, his voice steady but filled with urgency. I found records, old records. It's not just that they survived the Zenari invasion. They defeated them, not with superior technology, but with something else, something we haven't understood. Zero's eyes narrowed. What are you saying? That humans are more than we thought. Zoltor hesitated. They are more than anyone thought. They are resilient, General. They don't give up, no matter what. And that's the real reason no one in the galaxy dares to war with them. It's not because of their weapons or their fleets. It's because they'll never stop fighting. They'll never break. Zaro leaned back in his chair, eyes fixed on Zoltor. For a moment, there was silence between them. Then Zaro spoke. If what you say is true, then we've underestimated humanity. We've made a mistake. Zoltor, we've all made a mistake. The no-war policy isn't just about avoiding conflict. It's about preserving our existence. Zoltor's mind raced. Zaro's words confirmed his worst fears. The galaxy had been lulled into a false sense of security, believing that humanity's weakness was physical or technological. But it wasn't. Humans had something deeper, something more dangerous. They had the ability to fight to the bitter end, to never stop, no matter the odds. I need to know everything, Zoltor said, voice intense. I need to know why we've been so careful with them. There's more to this. There has to be. Zaro stood and moved to one of the terminals, tapping a series of commands. Holographic images flickered to life in front of them. One by one, ancient records of human encounters with other species appeared. There were countless stories, all showing the same pattern. Humans facing insurmountable odds, yet refusing to back down. Zoltor watched, mesmerized by the images. He saw humans fighting off invaders, surviving impossible odds, and pushing their enemies to the brink. The galaxy had written them off as weak, but the humans had made their enemies pay for every inch of ground they took. The last image was the most chilling. A report of an alien fleet, once unstoppable, now shattered and fleeing after a human counterattack. It was one of the first major victories Earth had ever won, and it marked the beginning of a reputation that would be feared across the galaxy. What have we been doing? Zoltor muttered, more to himself than Zaro. We've been so careful, so afraid to disturb them, but we didn't even understand what we were afraid of. Zaro turned to face him. It's not just the humans themselves, it's their will, their ability to endure. That's why we've stayed away. And that's why we must make sure the galaxy never forgets. Do not engage the humans. Zoltor felt a shiver run down his spine. There was more at stake here than just the future of the Varkish Dominion. The galaxy had always been a place of war, of power struggles, and of survival. But now, Zoltor understood that the true threat was not just weapons or armies. It was the unbreakable spirit of a species that refused to yield. And that, in itself, made humanity the most dangerous force in the galaxy. Zoltor's mind raced as he walked away from General Zaro's private quarters. The conversation had shaken him to his core. The galaxy had always been driven by power, strength in numbers, advanced technology, and vast fleets. But now, he realized, humanity was not merely another species among countless others. They were an anomaly, a species that thrived in ways no one had understood, and the galaxy was paying the price for their ignorance. The no-war policy had always seemed like a formality, a simple, common-sense rule to avoid conflict with a planet that seemed insignificant in the grand scheme of things. But Zoltor now knew that it was not just a peacekeeping measure. It was a warning, a protective shield meant to keep the universe from triggering something far more dangerous than they could ever imagine. As he made his way to the command center, Zaltor could not shake the image of the human fleets and their victories. They had faced enemies that were far more advanced, far more powerful. But somehow, they had defeated them. The humans didn't just fight for survival. They fought to make sure their enemies never stood a chance again. Zaltor felt an overwhelming sense of dread. What if the entire galaxy had been walking on a knife's edge all this time? What if one wrong move, one slight provocation, could awaken the full might of humanity? The galaxy was not ready for that. In the command center, Zero was deep in conversation with his advisors when Zaltor entered. The tension in the room was palpable. Everyone understood the gravity of the situation now. They had been underestimating humanity for far too long. No one had known the truth, the full, horrifying truth about what Earth's inhabitants were capable of. Zaltor didn't wait for permission. He walked straight to the data console, pulling up the archived records on human interactions with other species. The screen flickered as the images of their past battles appeared, each one more intense than the last. The records told a story of a species that never gave up, no matter the cost. Earth had suffered attacks from countless alien forces, yet each time, the humans had adapted, learned, and struck back harder. How did they survive this long? Zaltor muttered aloud, unable to comprehend how they had defied the odds time and time again. Zero, watching from behind, spoke with a grim voice. It's not just survival, Commander. It's their resolve, their refusal to be conquered. Earth might not have the biggest fleets or the deadliest weapons, but they have something more dangerous, a spirit that can never be broken. The screen shifted to an ancient battle report, a massive alien fleet, once thought to be invincible, laying waste to every species in its path, only to be stopped by a small human force. Zaltor stared at the data, trying to process what he was seeing. The humans had faced impossible odds and had somehow found a way to turn the tables in their favor. They can't be defeated, Zaltor said quietly. His voice trembled as he spoke. Not if they keep fighting. Not if they keep adapting. Zaro's eyes narrowed as he leaned forward. Exactly. And that's why the galaxy needs to understand something very clearly. We're not dealing with a species we can defeat with brute force. The only way to deal with Earth is to not provoke them at all. The no-war policy isn't just a suggestion. It's a survival rule. Zaltor felt the weight of the truth press down on him. The galaxy had been wrong all along. They had assumed that humanity would eventually fall, weak, divided, and insignificant. But instead, Earth had only grown stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Suddenly, Zaltor felt a cold chill run through his spine. What if some species in the galaxy didn't know about this truth? What if there were races out there, eager to test humanity? What if the warning had already been ignored? The more he thought about it, the more he realized just how precarious their situation had become. The galaxy had always been divided, full of warring factions, but now, with the knowledge of humanity's true potential, the balance had shifted. Zaltor looked up from the console, meeting Zero's gaze. He could see the same unease in the general's eyes. They both understood the dangers. A single spark, a single mistake, could ignite a conflict that would engulf the entire galaxy. And once humanity's wrath was unleashed, there would be no turning back. We need to warn everyone, Zaltor said, his voice low but firm. We need to make sure the galaxy knows that this is not a species to provoke. They won't just fight to defend themselves. They will destroy anyone who dares to threaten them. Zaro nodded gravely. We'll send a message to the council. We'll make sure they understand. But we can't just send words. We need proof. Zaltor understood what Zaro meant. The council wouldn't take the warning seriously unless they saw the destruction Earth was capable of firsthand. They needed evidence, a display of Earth's power so overwhelming that no one would dare to challenge them again. But how could they show the galaxy the full scope of humanity's power? The answer was clear. They would need to find humanity's most recent military victory, a battle so fierce and so decisive that it would send a message to the entire galaxy. It would be their proof, the moment when the universe would realize that humans were not to be trifled with. Zoltor had already seen what humans could do in battle. Now he needed to find the final chapter in their story, a tale of conquest that would make the galaxy tremble. But where would they find such a tale? And would the galaxy survive the revelation? The search for evidence wasn't easy. Zoltor knew it would be a difficult and dangerous task. The galaxy was vast, and humanity's reach stretched far beyond what most alien species had ever imagined. But he couldn't ignore the growing urgency. There were whispers across the galaxy, rumors of strange battles, whispers of powerful fleets that no one had ever seen before. The Council needed proof that humanity wasn't just capable of defending themselves, but capable of annihilating anyone who threatened them. Zoltor sat in a small, dimly lit room in the heart of the command center. The glow of multiple screens flickered in front of him. He knew there were many reports on Earth's recent actions, but most of them were vague. They couldn't rely on fragmented stories. They needed something more substantial, something undeniable. The fate of the galaxy could depend on it. Where do we start? Zoltor muttered to himself, his eyes scanning the latest intel feeds. He turned to his console, pulling up a map of known human territories. Earth was located in a backwater corner of the galaxy, a planet that many thought would never rise to prominence. But now, Zoltor knew better. He couldn't just dismiss Earth as insignificant anymore. They had been overlooked for too long, and now that their true nature was coming to light, it was only a matter of time before someone would provoke them. Zoltor's fingers flew over the holographic interface as he searched for any battle reports, any sign of humanity's strength that would prove their terrifying potential. After what felt like hours of searching, he finally came across a set of coordinates. They led to a small system near the edge of the galaxy, known to be a place where humans had recently clashed with a coalition of hostile alien species. According to the reports, the battle had been fierce, with humanity's forces holding their ground against overwhelming odds. This might be it, Zoltor thought, his heart racing. He wasn't sure what exactly had happened there, but the reports spoke of massive destruction and human forces that had fought with a level of fury and precision that no one expected. He quickly compiled the data and sent it to General Zoro, who was currently preparing for a strategy meeting with the other high-ranking officers. Within minutes, Zoro's face appeared on the screen in front of him, his expression serious. "What have you found, Commander?" "I've located a battle site," Zoltor replied. "It's not far from the border of human territory, a place where they clashed with a multi-species fleet. The reports speak of their resilience, of their ability to turn the tide despite being outnumbered. I believe this is the proof we need." Zoro nodded gravely. "Send me the coordinates. We'll begin investigating immediately." Zoltor couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding. This could be the moment when the galaxy truly understood what humanity was capable of. But what if they didn't like what they found? What if this battle was only the beginning of something much darker? As the coordinates were transmitted to Zoro, Zoltor stared out at the stars beyond the command center. In the past, the galaxy had been able to predict the rise and fall of civilizations. They had seen countless species rise to power, only to be overthrown by their own greed or miscalculation. But Earth was different. Humans had something no other species seemed to have, a deep, unshakable will to survive, no matter the cost. They had been underestimated for too long, and now the galaxy was beginning to see the consequences of that mistake. Earth was no longer a planet that could be ignored. It was a force to be reckoned with, a force that, if provoked, could shatter the peace the galaxy had worked so hard to maintain. Zoro's voice broke through Zoltor's thoughts. "We're heading to the battle site now. Be ready, Commander. This could be the information that turns the tide of the war for good." Zoltor nodded, his mind racing. They were about to witness a battle that would define humanity's place in the galaxy, if they survived the encounter. But even as he felt the weight of the mission pressing down on him, part of him couldn't shake the thought. What if the truth about humanity's power was more terrifying than they could ever imagine? He didn't have to wait long to find out. The fleet assembled, and they set course for the coordinates. As they traveled closer to the system, Xaltor couldn't help but feel the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. The reports had only given him the smallest glimpse into what had happened in that distant battle. But now, he was about to witness it firsthand. Would the humans' fury be enough to shake the foundations of the galaxy, or would it be their undoing? The silence in the command center was deafening as they approached the battlefield. Xaltor's hands clenched into fists as the tension mounted. This was it, the moment the galaxy would understand just how wrong they had been about humanity. As Xaltor's fleet neared the coordinates, the tension grew unbearable. The stars outside the viewports appeared to stretch into long lines as their ship moved at full speed toward the system. The silence was broken only by the soft hum of the ship's engines. Every officer on board understood the gravity of the mission. The next few moments could change everything for the galaxy, whether humanity would be seen as a savior or a new terror. The star system they approached had been quiet for months, but as they entered the system, something felt wrong. The usual signals were absent. No friendly ships, no patrols, and most strangely, no signs of the alien coalition that had been reported as the aggressors in the battle. Only silence. Xaltor scanned the readings on his console, his eyes narrowing. "There's something off about this," he muttered. "There's no sign of the ships from the battle. Everything's silent. Too silent." Zaro, standing beside him, nodded, his face grim. "Prepare for a scan. We need to know what we're walking into." Xaltor tapped a series of keys on his console, and a detailed scan of the area lit up on the display. His breath caught in his throat. The scan didn't show any signs of life. No alien vessels, no debris from the battle. Nothing. It was as if the entire fleet had vanished into thin air. But what was even more disturbing was the energy signature coming from one of the planets in the system. It was enormous, much larger than any signature they had encountered before. It was almost as though it was calling them. "We need to investigate that planet," Zaro ordered, his voice steady but filled with urgency. "Set course immediately." The fleet changed direction and began heading toward the source of the energy signature. As they approached the planet, the atmosphere looked strange from the distance. The clouds appeared to churn violently, and there were occasional flashes of light from below the surface. The planet looked like it had just gone through some sort of upheaval, and Xaltor couldn't shake the growing feeling of dread that seemed to settle over him. The landing was uneventful. Xaltor and his team boarded a shuttle, ready to investigate the surface. The moment they set down on the planet, the feeling of unease only intensified. The landscape was stark and barren. The ground was cracked, and twisted metal was scattered across the surface, remnants of some massive destruction. But there were no signs of life, no signs of the battle that had supposedly taken place here. "Report," Zaro ordered. "There's nothing here but destruction," Xaltor replied, scanning the area once more. The reports were accurate. There was a battle here, but no one survived. "There's no sign of the alien coalition and the humans. We found no bodies, no wreckage, just empty ruins." Zaro frowned, his gaze sweeping across the landscape. "Then what happened here? Why did the humans leave no trace of themselves?" Before Xaltor could respond, a loud rumbling echoed from beneath their feet. The ground trembled, sending a shockwave through the air. The team froze in place, eyes wide with shock. The planet had been quiet, eerily silent, but now, something was moving. "Get back to the shuttle," Zaro barked. The team didn't hesitate. They turned and ran toward the shuttle as fast as they could, but the tremors only grew stronger, and something beneath the surface was rising. Xaltor's heart raced as the ground cracked open, and a massive structure began to emerge from the planet's depths. The structure was unlike anything Xaltor had ever seen, enormous, ancient, and covered in strange markings. It was clear that it was not of alien origin, nor did it match anything the galaxy had seen before. The structure seemed to hum with power, its energy signature intensifying as it rose. As the team reached the shuttle, they looked up, their jaws dropping in disbelief. "Is that a ship?" Zaltor asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Not just a ship," Zaro replied, his tone full of awe and terror. "That's something far more dangerous." Just then, a voice crackled through the communication system, breaking the eerie silence. It was faint at first, but then it became clearer, stronger. "We're sorry, but you've made a mistake." Zaltor's blood ran cold. The voice wasn't alien. It wasn't from the coalition they had been tracking. It was unmistakably human. The message was clear. They were not alone here. "We didn't want this," the voice continued, "but you forced us. Welcome to Deathworld. We'll show you what happens when you poke the hornet's nest." The shuttle's engine roared to life, but the message lingered in the air, vibrating in the team's minds. As they shot into the sky, the massive ship began to rise from the ground, and for the first time, Zaltor felt real fear. Humanity had left no sign of their true power on the battlefield. They hadn't needed to. The true weapon of humanity had been hidden here, on this barren, forgotten world. And now, the galaxy would understand. Humanity wasn't just a species to be feared. They were the galaxy's most dangerous force. As the shuttle sped through the atmosphere, Zaltor's mind raced. The ancient ship, or whatever it was now fully exposed. The sheer scale of it was terrifying. It had risen from the planet's depths like a beast from slumber. And with it, the voice on the communication system had made it clear. Humanity wasn't just another species in the galaxy. They were a force that no one had truly understood, least of all the alien coalition that had come to invade them. Zaltor sat in the shuttle's cockpit, hands gripping the controls as his thoughts churned. He glanced over at Zaro, who was staring out at the emerging ship, his face a mask of disbelief and awe. The rest of the crew was equally silent, each processing the implications of what had just happened. That voice, Zaro finally broke the silence. It wasn't just a threat. It was a declaration. Humans have something we haven't seen before, something we've underestimated. Zaltor nodded grimly. "We should have known. We've been so focused on the alien coalition and their military capabilities that we never even considered the possibility that humans had been hiding something all along. Something massive." The shuttle climbed higher, leaving the planet behind, but the view of the massive structure remained in their sights. The ship, or whatever it was, seemed to pulsate with an unnatural energy, as if it were alive. There was no way it was merely a ship. Its design didn't match anything in the galaxy's database, and the power readings coming from it were off the charts. "Whatever that thing is," Zaltor said, "we can't face it without understanding its power. We need to find out everything we can about it, and quickly." Zaro nodded. "Agreed. But we also need to prepare. If humans are behind that ship, then they're not just going to sit back and let us study it. They'll want answers. And if we give them the wrong ones, we might find ourselves on the wrong end of their wrath." The words hung in the air, and for a moment, the entire crew understood the gravity of their situation. They were no longer the hunters, the galaxy's most feared predators. The aliens were now the prey. And humanity had just shown them why. As they exited the atmosphere, the shuttle sensors flickered to life, and a new signal appeared on the display. This one was different. It was not just a communication. It was a command. The signal source, the enormous ancient ship. Zaltor's hand shot out instinctively toward the console, his heart racing. The command was clear: approach or face extinction. Zaro's voice was a low growl as he spoke, his eyes narrowed. "They're making their move, and they're giving us an ultimatum." The message had been delivered, but it wasn't just a challenge. It was a warning. Humanity wasn't waiting for the galaxy to catch up. They were in charge now, and they wanted the aliens to understand that loud and clear. As they approached the strange ship's location, the shuttle systems beeped urgently. The power signatures were fluctuating, like the ship was preparing something. Energy crackled in the air around them, and for the first time, Zaltor felt an unfamiliar sense of fear crawl up his spine. "What the hell is that?" Zorro muttered, his eyes glued to the controls as they approached the ship. Then, the lights on the ship flared. A massive beam of light shot toward them from the ship, crackling with energy. It was a weapon, and it was aimed directly at their shuttle. Zaltor's heart skipped a beat. "We need to pull back," Zaltor ordered, but it was too late. The beam slammed into the shuttle's shields, sending the small craft spinning out of control. The crew screamed as the ship was thrown off course, plummeting toward the planet below. But just as suddenly as it had begun, the shaking stopped. The shuttle was jerked back into stability, the emergency systems kicking in as the crew struggled to regain control. "This isn't a warning anymore," Zaltor said, his voice steady but full of tension. "This is a fight for survival. Humanity doesn't want us to get close to their secrets, and they've just shown us they're willing to destroy us to keep it that way." Zorro clenched his fists. "We're going to need more than shields if we're going to get any answers. We have to prepare for what's coming." The shuttle limped away from the ship, but it was clear that humanity wasn't done with them. The first strike had been made, and it was a clear message. The galaxy's most terrifying force had just shown its hand. And now, the aliens were forced to deal with the consequences. Humanity had awakened something ancient and powerful, and the galaxy would never be the same again. As the shuttle limped back toward the alien fleet, the crew could only stare at the damage. The ship had been torn apart by the massive beam of energy, and the control systems were barely functioning. Zaltor's heart raced as he struggled to maintain the shuttle's course, but the reality of what had just happened was sinking in. Humanity wasn't just a threat to the galaxy. They were a force that could not be underestimated. "Do you think they'll stop?" Zorro asked, his voice strained as he gripped the side of his seat. His eyes were wide with a mixture of disbelief and fear. "After what they did to us, can we even negotiate with them?" Zaltor didn't respond right away. Instead, he glanced at the readings on his console. The massive ship was still there, looming in the distance, its power fluctuating ominously. It was like a giant beast waiting for its prey to make the wrong move, and humanity had just shown that it wasn't afraid to strike first. "We're going to have to face them," Zaltor finally said, his voice steady, though it masked the fear that was creeping up on him. "There's no negotiating with them. They've made that clear. If we don't act now, they'll finish what they started." The alien fleet had already received the news of their encounter with humanity. It was clear from the growing tension among the commanders that no one knew how to proceed. The humans had just decimated one of their own without a second thought. What if they did it again? "We can't just send more ships," Zorro said, his mind racing. "What if they have more of those weapons? What if they have something even worse? Our fleets are strong, but we weren't prepared for this." Zaltor clenched his jaw, realizing the truth. They had underestimated humanity. And now, it seemed, they were paying the price. The galaxy had thought the humans were weak, insignificant. But in reality, humanity had been hiding its strength, waiting for the right moment to show the rest of the universe just how dangerous they could be. "We need to warn the others," Zaltor said, punching a few buttons on his console. "If we don't, the entire galaxy will suffer. This isn't just about us. The entire alien coalition is at risk now." But just as he was about to send out the distress signal, the communications console flickered, and the screen came to life. The message was short and direct. There was no greeting, no explanation. "Approach or face extinction," the message read. It was from humanity's ship. The crew exchanged nervous glances. There was no question anymore. Humanity wasn't going to stop. They weren't afraid. And they weren't going to wait for anyone to catch up. They were ready to end this fight on their own terms. "Well," Zorro said, his voice cold with determination. "Looks like we're either going to face them head-on or perish." Zoltor nodded grimly. "We have no choice. If we don't act now, we'll all be wiped out. We'll have to put everything we have into this fight." The shuttle shook again as the crew braced for impact, but it wasn't just the damage from the energy beam. The reality of their situation was sinking in. Humanity was coming for them, and they weren't going to wait for them to make the first move. There was no going back now. The galaxy's most dangerous species had just shown its true face, and there was no telling what would happen next. But one thing was certain: humanity had won this round. The universe would have to learn that the humans were not weak. They were a force to be reckoned with, and no one could ignore them any longer. As the shuttle approached the alien fleet, ready to face the unknown, the crew couldn't help but feel the weight of the moment. The galaxy had just learned a harsh truth. Humanity was no longer a species to be ignored. And now, they would have to deal with the consequences. The war was only just beginning, and the humans had made it clear. They were ready for whatever came next.